Good morning, students. Welcome to the first session for final course, your BOS for your success. I am CA Shilpa Agarwal, the faculty for today's session, and I'll be taking session for paper 1 financial reporting. Along with me is Director Board of Studies, CA Vandana Nagpalji. She'll be sharing her words of wisdom. So please be benefited with those. Ma'am, over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Shilpa. Thanks a lot. And good morning, all my dear students, and especially all those who are preparing for their final exam. Welcome you all, because this session is specifically for the students who are appearing in November examination in the final, right? So students, this particular session, we are continuing with our series of BOS for your success, where the BOS faculty, they are taking the sessions for you, for your benefit, so that they are able to remove your queries which you have while writing your exams, any problems you are facing while studying the particular subject. So any questions you have in your mind, the BOS faculty is there for you. Don't hesitate. Keep sending your questions and have your queries resolved. Today, the first session for paper 1 is financial reporting, which will be taken by CA Shilpa Agarwal. She'll take care and she'll guide you as to how you really need to study for your final exams. And students, by this time, I hope you would have all appeared for your mock test series 1. Especially you would have appeared for this particular paper, and now thereafter, after this particular session for BOS for your success is going to be over by 29th of September. Our second series of mock test paper is going to start, which will be from 3rd of October. So my dear students, all those who have missed the first mock test series, ensure that you attend those papers while sitting at home also. Go through the questions. Once you feel your preparation is done, you can pick up that particular paper, go through the question paper, attempt the question paper in hand, and do it under the examination conditions. Students, it's really going to help you while planning your strategy as to how you are going to attempt your paper during those 3 hours time. So do those particular questions in the examination conditions, and after you are through with your paper, you can download the answers and compare your answers with the answers which we have given it for you, and just see which step have you missed and which particular step while you were doing, where have you gone wrong. So students, be very confident. Don't worry. We all are, the board of studies is there with you. We are going to help you and tell you that which are the problems which the students are usually facing while writing the exams, which are the steps you are missing. And students, one thing more I would like to also tell you, that constant preparation and continuously studying is going to make you very perfect. And don't attempt the questions while after reading, don't do the answers through a shortcut method. Don't try answering your answers, questions, just attempting on the calculator. Calculator is required, but you're writing, you're doing the steps on a paper, on the sheet of paper is a must. Because if you are able to do your questions with the help of calculator, what is going to happen while you are writing your papers in the exam time, you will not be able to complete the answer. You'll be missing certain steps, which will really lag you behind. So please write on the paper, attend the questions. Revisionary test papers are already out for you. You can attempt the questions because they are new questions for your practice. And which are the amendments which are coming? They have been also covered in the revisionary test papers. Right? So students, you have to be very thorough with your revisionary test papers. And you also know one thing more, that we have also come out with Saransh, the last mile referencer also for you, which is going to give you a bird eye view to all the Indias. Right? especially for the financial reporting paper, we have covered all the Ind AS for you, which is really going to help you before the exam, that you don't have to go through the entire 4 modules before the exam. Go through those particular this saransh and understand the concepts and pick up few important questions from each topic and attend them. Don't have any pressure that you have to complete, you have to go through all the 4 modules before the exam. Last mile referencer is going to help you before exam time. And what you do is, for each chapter, each index, pick up one peculiar question, right? Which you feel is going to cover the entire particular index, and try actually understanding the index from a different perspective also. Just take the balance sheet and the P&L, just see which index are covered at one place and how you have to apply them while you are doing the questions. So this is how you are going to make yourself very, very comfortable before the exam and during the exam. So students, be very thorough with your concepts. Any problem you are facing in the concept, you can ask Shilpa. She's there for you. And students, you know also very well that we are also having our BOS mobile app also. In that mobile app, you are having a section of Ask Your Query. In case you feel certain queries have not, you are still having certain queries after today's session, you can post your query over there and our faculty are going to respond to you. And in case you have any other problem, you can also send the mails also, right? And they'll all be responded to. One thing you have to ensure that you don't have to panic. You have to remain cool, because everything is there in your mind. You really need to revive during the exam time. So just have that particular time, do physical exercise also. Do some pranayam in the morning, which is going to help you in helping you in your having your retention power. It will improve your retention power. And you'll be able to recollect the things and able to correlate the concepts and will be able to answer well. So students, I wish you all the very best. Do attend all these sessions. Ask your friends also to attend these sessions, because attending them live is really going to help you a lot. Though we do not say that if you have missed, you can always see the recorded session also, but try joining these sessions live and have your queries resolved today itself. Now, Shilpa is going to take you through this particular journey, and she's there with you to resolve all your queries. So all the best, and Shilpa, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And students, the one benefit of joining live is that whatever queries you have, you'll be able to get the answer on real-time basis. If you go for the recorded version, you'll get the tips, you'll be taking the whatever amendments we'll be covering in the session, and also whatever the questions we are going to take as per the time permits. That you can see later on also, but the queries which you have during watching those sessions, that will be resolved during this live session only. Otherwise, you have to put your queries, raise your queries on your BOS mobile app, ask your query, or on your subject specific mail ID. I'll be sharing the subject specific mail ID also at the end of the session. So in case students who have not downloaded the BOS mobile app, they can do so meanwhile. Otherwise, they can ask it over the mail also. So let me first take you with the general part where we are talking what are the important points which is to be taken care of while before appearing for the examination. Once we'll cover that, then the just snippet which I am giving, synopsis of the session which I am sharing is, first we'll be carrying the important key terms, whatever the important tips which one should take care while appear before for your preparation, and then how to study, what should be the sequence, and then what are the tips which you have to follow during examination, and what are do's and don'ts which should be taken care of during and after examination. So first let us start with, okay, first we'll be sharing key specific points to be taken care of while preparing for the examination. Hope my screen is visible. Students, just give me one, those who are attending through this portal, please just let me, my screen is visible. Okay, so first, what most important point is that thorough and in-depth preparation of entire syllabus. While preparing for the examination, one should not go for any selective study. First thing, one should not go for any rectification that we have to, any rote learning should not be taken place, because this is a practical paper, and in practical paper you have to understand the provisions and then you have to apply those provisions in the practical scenario. So it is very necessary that thorough understanding of the concept should be there. And if, because Indians are very technical in nature, I understand that in one study you won't be able to understand fully, or we won't be able to appreciate fully. So definitely 2 round of full complete study is required for Indians. And after that, revision should be in the form of whatever the questions you have shortlisted. After that, through RTPs, through mock test papers, and even through suggested answers also. So for these will be the later steps, but first is that during your first 2 rounds of study, which should be a full study, one should have a thorough and in-depth preparation of entire syllabus. Here, entire syllabus is very important. Just highlight this. It's an entire syllabus. Do not go for selective study. Most of the Indians are largely interconnected. So you cannot say that let me skip standards which are there for your module 1 and start with your module 2. Even if you start with your module 2, but don't leave the standards which are covered in your module 1, because somewhere one of the two standards are covered. For example, you have any error in the valuation of your assets, which is there, your asset based standards are covered in module 2. So if you have any error, was committed by accountant in the previous year, in that case, what should be there? Though this valuation of assets, you have to apply Ind AS 8 also. So in that case, your standards which are there in module 1, that is also required. Knowledge of those standards are also required. So that's why it is very important that you have to study all these standards, because they are largely interconnected. And when they are interconnected, if you are not studying any of the standards, your confidence level would not boost. Your confidence level would not be 100%. So that's why it is very important that don't go for any selective study. Next is written practice of both numerical and theoretical questions. Now, earlier financial reporting, mainly what was happening that all the questions were numerical in nature, which were coming in the examination. Now, this is not the scenario. In the examination, you get both type of questions. They are practical questions, but that practical questions doesn't mean that all are numerical questions. Your practical questions may be your case study based, your scenario based, where you have to analyze the situation, you have to connect it with the provisions of the standard, and then you have to give your comments or your conclusions based on particular provision, or your with the reasoning, proper reasoning. So that type of question is also practical in nature, but definitely they won't be numerical. Or it may be that you have to give some calculations, but your whole answer will not be based on calculation only, or it won't be like preparation of financial statement, it won't be calculation of any particular amount. It may be that how you are going to give the accounting treatment and why you are giving that accounting treatment. So for that, it is very necessary that you have a written practice of both numerical and theoretical questions. What is the reason is, the students what generally tend to do is that for practical questions, for numerical questions, they do practice by writing, but when it comes to theoretical questions, they simply read the solutions which are given in the study material, or whatever notes you are preparing from. You simply go through the solution, or you just think, okay, conclusion should be this, and you match that your conclusion is matching with the conclusion which is given in the solution. But that is not sufficient. In the examination, you don't have to write only the conclusion, you have to build up your answer. Your answer should be built up with the provisions given in the standard, how that provision is being connected with the scenario given in the question paper, and based on those connections, what should be your conclusion, why you have arrived at that conclusion. That is the way of answering the theoretical question, and for that, written practice is required. Otherwise, what will happen, you will be short of words, you will be short of sentences, you won't be able to substantiate yourself, you'll be writing in few lines, and based on marks only, you have to give your answer. If your answer is of 8 marks and you just give the conclusion or you support it with 1 or 2 lines, that won't fetch you full marks. So it is very necessary even for your theoretical questions also, that you have a written practice. Then only you'll be able to score well. So students should focus on all type of questions, written practice of each question by hand. One more important thing is that one additional benefit of doing written practice is your hand and mind coordination. Whatever you are thinking, your hand is also coordinating and is helping you in writing that particular thought process only. That is the reason written practice will help you in your hand and mind coordination. Second benefit which you will be getting is increase of speed because of written practice. In case what happens, if you're practicing at home and you're solving any particular solution in 5 minutes, then in your examination, if because of paucity of time you have to complete it in 3 or 4 minutes, you'll be able to do it because you're having a written practice. So your thought and mind coordination is there, your mind and hand coordination is there, your flow of thought is there, which you can put it in words over your answer sheet. So you'll be able to speed up and you'll be able to complete your answer in short times also. So it is very important that you have a written practice of your even every type of question, not only numerical, also theoretical also, because every question in your financial reporting is largely practical question. Okay. So next important point, which is very important to be taken care of. Okay. Next important point is alertness while computation. See, it is not that, as I told you earlier also in this session, that it is not that every question is going to be numerical. But yes, even in your theoretical questions also, where it is case study or case scenario based, you may have to substantiate your conclusion along with certain figures, with certain computations. So for that computation also, you have to be very alert. Your calculation error may lead you to wrong conclusion. So it is very necessary that you have to be very alert while computing, while copying the figures from the question paper to your answer sheet. While making the calculations, you should be very careful. You are doing addition. If you want to do addition, it is going addition only. If you want to do subtraction, it is subtraction only. If you are writing 4-digit number, it is 4-digit number only. It is the number which you are mentioning, that is only. It should not be 531 is not going to be 135 or 513. You have to take care of that also. So very alert. You have to be very, very alert while computation, because computation may end up into wrong computation, may end up into wrong results also, wrong conclusions also. So this is also very important. This is what we are saying, basically what we get the feedback from the examiners, those who are checking your answer sheets. The comments which they give, now this is one of the common observation which they share with us, is that students falter while doing their computation. Their logic is okay, their process is okay, they get mark for it, step marking is there, but because the end result or end final answer is wrong, they lose marks. Definitely there is a step marking, so definitely you're not going to lose complete full marks, but you won't be getting full marks also. So that is why it is very important that when you are logically correct, every steps are correct, your computation should also be correct. Okay, one important thing is that what happens when we do the practice, we do it in a form of rough work, sketch work. We are simply doing the calculations, we are simply writing the figures and doing plus minus. But when it comes to your main examination, when you are writing in your answer sheet, and especially when you are preparing the financial statements, balance sheet, or your statement of profit and loss, please take care of your formats. Division 2 of Schedule 3 to the Companies Act 2013, which is for your Ind AS based financial. This division 2 is your Ind AS. This prescribes the formats for Ind AS based financial statements. So it is very, very important. If anywhere in the question you are asked to prepare the financial statements, your financial statements should be in the format which is as per division 2 to schedule 3. So for proper format is very important. Even if it is not mentioned in the question paper, even if they are not saying you have to do it as per division 2, they are simply asking to prepare the balance sheet, they are simply asking to prepare the statement of profit and loss. In spite of any instruction, you have to follow division 2. It is not that question was not mentioning, so we have not followed. That excuse won't work. You will be losing the marks. So whether it is mentioned or not mentioned, you have to prepare your financial statements based on the formats as per division 2, that is India's financial statements. Okay. And as ma'am or director board of studies also shared with that, everything should not be on calculator. You have to put it in your answer sheet also. It means you have to give your working notes also. So working notes also carry marks. So since they carry marks, it is very important that they should also be written in a very neat and clean manner. They should substantiate your main the figures which are given in your main answer in your financial statements or anywhere. That working note linking should be correct, numbering of working note should be correct, and for every calculation which involves number of steps, there should be a working note, and working note should form part of your answer. It should not be given in an haphazard manner, should not be given in a form of rough sketch, should not be given anywhere. It should be after your answer or before your answer. Even you can give your working notes before your answer also. It is not, though in a suggested answer we follow a particular pattern where we are first put the requirement of the question, and whatever the figures are given which requires computation steps, we have given at the end of that main solution, main requirement of the question, as form of working note. But for examination purpose, we understand before, when you do the working note, then only you come to the main figure and then which you have to apply it. So even if you put your working note before your main solution in your answer sheet examination hall, it is perfectly okay, completely acceptable, no issues. You can do that also. So put your answers, working notes, either before your main solution, before your main requirement, or at the end of the requirement, but give working notes. Proper working notes is required. Definitely you have to also see the allocation of marks for particular question. If your answer is, if your question is for say 8 marks, you cannot go for 10 to 12 working notes, definitely. No? Even if you are preparing a financial statement, say balance sheet, and balance sheet is carrying only say 10 marks. In 10 marks, if you give 12 notes to accounts, and then you give your main balance sheet also, for notes to accounts you have to give your working notes also. To definitely, there's no point of stretching your answer to that extent. You have to work based on your marks also. So what should be done in that case? You have to crisp your answer for necessary working notes, for your necessary notes to accounts. That is to be taken care of. Okay. Unnecessary wastage of time should not be there, because if your answer is of 8 to 10 marks, definitely they are expecting that much time, that proportionate amount of time only to be spent for that particular answer. Okay, next is this is the most, but students generally want to ask ki, what is, whether we should do this or not. Quoting of India's name and number along with paragraphs. See, definitely, if you put any India's name or the number or title of the India's, if you mention in your answer sheet, correctly mention in your answer sheet, definitely that is going to give you an edge. Even if you put the para number, it is going to give an edge, but it will give an edge only when you are putting it, mentioning it correctly. In the safe side, it is not expected from the students. Students are not expected to do any rote learning. For any paper, it is not expected to be done. Any rote learning is not expected. So quoting para numbers means you have to do some learning, you have to memorize it. Na? So that is not expected. Because of that only, it is not necessary also that you mention para numbers. If you quote, if you remember very clearly that this is the para number, you can mention it. That can give you an edge. That can improve the impression among your, that based on your examiner. That can happen, but it is not necessary. Even if you are not quoting your para number, it doesn't mean that your negative impression is created by you. No, it is not like that. So because examiner is not expecting, na? So if it is not, so if he is not expecting and you don't mention, it is completely okay with them. So don't write, don't quote any wrong India's name or number or any para number. If you are quoting any India's name or number, it is well, good, perfectly fine. But if you are not quoting it, you are not very sure, put it as per the standard, as per Indian accounting standard, as per India's. This is the provision. You can mention like this. Simple. Okay. So in short, what we have discussed is tips for the examination is use of proper formats, adequate working notes, answer the questions with due emphasis on the provisions of Indian accounting standards. See, what we discussed is that for written practice, while we were discussing for written practice, we also mentioned that to build up an answer, there is a particular fashion, that first you quote the provisions in your own language, you quote the provisions, then connect it with the scenario, then come to the conclusion along with your reasoning why you are coming to that particular conclusion. So this is the manner of building an answer. So for that, it is very necessary that you put an emphasis on the provisions of the standards in your own language. But in your own language means doesn't mean that it should be bilkul vague, or sort of you have to use certain key terms which is used in the standard, which will make examiner understand that you know the standard, you know that particular provision. For example, if you are using if you are answering any question of India's 2, say for inventories, so net realizable value, cost replacement, cost to sale, these are simple different short form, so some keywords which is to be taken care of. Similarly, if you're answering any answer which applies your provision of India's 37, so contingent asset or contingent liability, when it probable, reasonable assurance is there, certainty for measurement is there, or past obligation is there, probability, these are certain key terms. Though your sentence should be in your own language, but key terms, certain key terms, usage of those key terms is required. That will help examiner in understanding that you know that standard, or you know that particular provision, or you know that particular answer. So answering the questions with due emphasis on the provisions, not the para numbers. Provisions of the Indian accounting standard is important, and that too in your own language, but with use of certain key terms. State the assumption clearly. You're aware ever generally what ICAI is trying to do is that to remove all the scopes of assumptions. They don't give any room of assumption, but somehow because of drafting of these question, it may happen that there is a scope of assumption, there is a room for assumption. Then whatever assumption you are taking, you understand that in the examination that this assumption is taken, based on that you are going to carry your answer in this direction. Then please mention that assumption very clearly. That will help examiner in understanding that okay, this is the logic. Maybe that logic doesn't match with the solution which is there with them, but in that case they will be able to appreciate your answer. They may come back to the examination department and tell the students have done in this manner also, taking this assumption also, and this assumption seems to be valid and logical. They may come back to the examiner, and examination department may evaluate and help you in getting, if that is logical, they'll be able to add that in the model solution, and that will be also forming part of your evaluation. So mention your assumption very clearly. That will help you in fetching marks for your logical answers. Then is one is matching of requirements of the question with your answer. This is very important. Generally what happens, certain computation is given in a question. Students generally do that computation and they feel that they have completed the answer. But the question, the requirement part of the question is not only computation. They want something more also. Like they want you to present in your financial statement. They want extracts of financial statement. They want your disclosures also. But you have only given the computation, no presentation, no extracts, no disclosures. Then how will you score marks? Na? So computation may be one of the part of your answer, but it will not be a whole answer. So take care of what is required in the question and what you have answered. There is a match. If there is any mismatch, definitely you are going to lose the marks. So please take care what is required. Just read the question, requirement part of the question very carefully. Explain, present, determine or compute, give the accounting treatment. Give the accounting treatment in general means you have to put the journal entry, and if you are not giving the journal entry, you explain it in the form of running sentence. You explain it what should be the accounting treatment. This should be charged to profit and loss, or this should be recognized to profit and loss. This should be presented as asset, or this should be presented as liability in the balance sheet, in under current asset or under non-current, whatever. You can give it in the form of a running sentence also, if you're not giving in the form of journal entry or in the form of extracts. But you have to be careful what is required in the question. Okay. So after tips for the examination, the last minute revision. One last minute revision was discussed. That is the last step, Saransh, which already has been discussed with our Director Board of Studies. So I would start with the capsule. Capsule is similar to Saransh. Capsule is what we give overview of any particular or summary of particular standard in your student's journal. And in your students journal, we have limited pages, so we give only one standard or part of a standard, and we continue into two or three editions issues. So capsules are those. They have also been compiled and given separately in your website, in your BOS knowledge portal. From there, you can refer it. Otherwise, there is a separate complete booklet, which is a printed version also, and it is given in your um, website also, BOS knowledge portal, Saransh, which carries all the summaries of all the Indias, which is relevant for you for your this November 2023 examination. You can refer. The purpose of giving Saransh is that you should be aware of the provisions of the standard. You should be thorough. You should have thorough understanding and practice of the standards. But for your last moment revision, when you are going to your exam, one day before that, you just want to brush up your concepts. You just want to understand ki whatever you have learned in 4 5 months, whatever, just to recollect that, you can go through these saransh. This is a bird's eye view, helicopter view is given in those that standard saransh for every standard, and they are given in a diagrammatic presentation that will help you in understanding, that will capture and will be registered in your mind. So it will be captured by your eye and registered in your mind. So that saransh will be helpful in that way, because it will give a easy flow. Easy understanding is possible because of the flow charts given there. So just refer that for your last mile preference, as a last moment preparation, 11th hour preparation, and it is really helpful. Believe me, that will really help you. In fact, it is a very important tool, and it is referred by many members also. If you go through, if you are in articles, you are working, you are in articleship, you'll be seeing with you in your office also. The chartered accountants keep this. This is because they help us in giving it's not possible for everyone to go through a detail each and every provision and find something. So just go through these flow charts, and you'll be able to easily brush up your concepts. So this was last minute revision, which we were saying. One is personal notes, which you prepare while practicing for your first 2 rounds of studies. You prepare that. Practical questions, when you are doing practical question in first 2 rounds of your study, we expect that you do all the questions. All the questions, each and every, don't leave, don't go for any selective study. After that, whenever you are doing your written practice of each and every question, you find that this particular question carries some tricky adjustments or adjustments which are different, you can mark them. And after that, when you are going for your third round of revision, you can just choose only those marked questions, and you can just practice that. That will be sufficient, because you have already gone for 2 rounds of study. So something in your in mind, it is there. Third round of study will just cement that your understanding, whatever errors you have done in your first 2 rounds, whatever tricky things which was there, you feel that may come in the examination, you can mark those questions. Okay, so this is last minute revision, and based on that only, we'll just go with how to manage time in the examination. So for improving marks, first write the answer which you know the best. This is what we always it is not necessary to appear in an examination. First you have to do question 1A, 1B, then 2A, then 2B. It is not that you have to follow any sequence. You get 15 minutes reading time before you get your answer sheet. Utilize that 15 minutes reading time to its optimum. Just go through the question hurriedly. You just go through the question paper, understand which is the topic which you have studied, where you are in, which is the standard in which we are very confident, and go through that particular question. If you feel yes, you can answer it correctly, choose that particular question in your answer sheet as your first answer, because your first answer will leave a good impression in your examiner's mind. So that will help you in, that will benefit you for other answers also. If you leave good impression in your examiner's mind, that will help in other questions also. So I have a query for this. Just let me address that particular query. This is the query by Sumit Jain. Saransh as well as capsule both are amended since student journal is published some time back. Saransh was amended in January 2023. We released. So by that time, Saransh was amended. So whatever amendments took place before that, or it was Saransh carries amended capsules. So you can say it in this manner. Capsules, once they published, we do not amend that, but Saransh is amended. We mentioned that you have to refer the notifications or amendments which come later after to this publication. So you can refer the Saransh, that's why. Okay. One question was asked again by Sumit Jain only. Working notes can be prepared at the beginning of answer. Yes, working notes can be prepared at the beginning of answer. In fact, examination time, you have less time, and in 3 hours you have to do all the questions. So whatever working notes you prepare, you can write it before your main answer also. But if you want to put your main answer first, then leave space. So if you are supposed to prepare financial statements, say you have to prepare balance sheet, then leave 2 pages. If you feel that your balance sheet will cover almost 1.5 page, leave 2 page. Even if it takes only 1.5 page and your half page is left blank, it's okay. You just cross it and say PTO, please turn over, and you can continue your working note from the third page. First do all the working notes, you can come back to the first 2 pages and do the financial statements or whatever the main part of the answer which is required, if you want, in this manner. Otherwise, you can first start with working note, complete all the working notes, and then prepare the balance sheet at the after all the working notes, and you can put whatever the working notes whatever the figures you have arrived through working notes, you can keep it in, just write it in your balance sheet. That is also acceptable, very acceptable, so no issues for that. Okay. I'm getting more queries. Okay. Where I came, Mukarala, sorry, I'm not able to read your name, but still, where I can get capsules. So you can get capsules on BOS Knowledge Portal. If time permits, I will take you to the BOS website also. There I show you what is given, where it is given. So BOS Knowledge Portal, if you click there, you'll find different tabs for different items, for study material, for your mock test papers, for your revision test papers, for your suggested answers. Similarly, you'll be having one tab for your capsules. When you click to that capsules, you'll find Saransh also there. For your Saransh, it will be foundation, intermediate, final, and then it will be your Saransh tab. So Saransh tab is also there in under the capsule and in that BOS knowledge portal. Can we give working notes in brackets along with main answer? See, this is where what is important. When your answer is very lengthy and your marks allocation is less, at that time you can put some of the working notes which require less calculations as part of a particular your main answer, but not everywhere. It is not advisable to do so, especially when you are putting your balance sheet में if something notes to accounts is required, notes to accounts का आप कुछ कुछ अपने face of the balance sheet में लिख सकते हैं, लेकिन working notes क्योंकि वो आपके steps होते हैं, आपकी computations बताते हैं, कुछ additions subtractions बताते हैं, आपकी कुछ statements होती हैं उसमें, तो वो आप अगर वहाँ main answer में लेके जाएंगे ना, तो आपका main answer बहुत mess हो जाएगा, वो एग्जामिनर के लिए वैल्यू करना भी मुश्किल होगा, वो एक अच्छा इंप्रेशन भी लीव नहीं करेगा. That's why it is advised to give a separate working note, and working notes carry marks also. अगर आप उसे वहां पे मेन आंसर में लेके जाएंगे ना, तो जो जितना वर्किंग नोट का आंसर कैरी करता है ना, वो एक पर्टिकुलर वर्किंग नोट जो आंसर मार्क्स कैरी कर रहा है, वो पूरे जरूरी नहीं है आपको वहां पे मिले, क्योंकि जब आप मेन आंसर में लेके जाएंगे तो आप सिर्फ क्या करेंगे, फिगर्स लिख देंगे, दिस फिगर प्लस दिस फिगर, दिस माइनस, दैट्स ऑल. But in working note, what you will be doing, you will be writing a statement also. So there will be difference in marks also. You cannot say कि मैंने पूरा वो working note यहाँ carry किया था, it was of 2 marks, so I got it 2 marks. I have not got 2 marks here, I got only 1 marks. That is the difference. So it is always advised to put a working note. हाँ, जब आपके पास 8 marks का question and you have less time to do it, तो आपको लगेगा चलो कुछ ना मिलने से better है कि आप कुछ तो करके आए ना, तो there आप कर सकते हैं, पर अगर time है, if time permits, go for a proper working note. Is there need to highlight the keyword by underlining the word? Not necessary. Not necessary. Don't highlight any word. You simply mention in your answer. Examiner will take care of that. Examiner will read the answer. They will understand your understanding level. So they are well experienced person. They'll understand from your answer that how much level of knowledge you have, what is your understanding level, preparation level. They'll just gather from that. So it's completely okay if you don't even don't highlight that. Okay, my name is Mansa. Okay, Mansa, it was at the end, na? By the time I left it. Okay, I'll take care of next time. Okay. Can I ask conceptual questions here? Conceptual questions, see, if something I'm discussing right now, Based on that, if you want to ask, definitely you ask it. If you ask me that, ma'am, what is the answer of this particular question which is given in the study material at this page, I'm not carrying my study material right now because I have a limited time. I have to carry the amendments, so I have to discuss amendments also. So I'm not carrying the study material. Yes, I'll be discussing two questions of RTP if time permits. What I'll advise you, I'll give my mail ID to you, that is fr-final@icai.in. This is the mail ID where you can pose your queries, but best is to ask your query through your BOS mobile app. It will be more, you'll get quickly for the answer for that particular from through that platform. If you raise your query through BOS mobile app, you'll be more, if you are getting through FR mail ID, if you are posing your query na, what will happen is that it may happen that you get your query reply for your queries in 2 days or 3 days, but if you pose it your in over that BOS mobile app, you may get it in 48 hours or in 24 hours. It may happen like this, so it is better to ask it through this particular portal, BOS mobile app. Otherwise, mail ID is also there, fr-final@ici.in. You can use that also for raising your queries. Okay, next is ma'am, should the subpart should be answered in a sequential order? Yes, that is important. Maybe I missed discussing that. If you are writing 1A, then 1B should also be there. You cannot do this that you start with 1A, then go for 2A, then go for 3B, then come with 1B, then come with 3C, and then 2B, then 3B. No, that should not be done. It should be 1A and then 1B. If you are choosing question number 2, then it should be 2A, 2B, 2C, all whatever subparts are there, that should be in sequence. In case you feel that you are not able to answer any subpart, but you have chosen that particular question, then leave sufficient space and then move ahead. And at the end, when you have sufficient time or when you have time, you come back to answer that particular left out subpart. Okay, you can do that. You can leave the space, and in case you don't find time at the end to come back, then just cut that paper. That is otherwise, even if you don't cut that at the beginning of the answer sheet, you mentioned that your answer sheet is running into 10 pages or 8 pages. So accordingly, examiners understand that this even if one page is blank, there is an answer, another answer after that, so they'll check that. So no issues that the answer after that will be unchecked. It will not be it will not happen. Ma'am, what if we don't remember section number in DT? For DT faculty will be taking that BOS for your success. She'll be guiding you appropriately. I am here for financial reporting. I'll be able to guide you for financial reporting only. So DT faculty will discuss that for section number. I don't think even she'll be saying that strictly mention that section number. If you mention, it will give you an edge. If it is mentioned in the question paper, then that is helpful to you. You have to repeat it that again. But DT faculty will be guiding you for that. No? It's better that the respective subject faculty guys, she'll be the better person or right person to guide you. Okay. So please, students, restrict your query to financial reporting only. Okay. Okay, so Suraj, no more queries till now. So I'm coming back to this now. If I just go through this, what I'm finding is that it's already 11. We have started our session 10 minutes late also, no? So 11:54, and we are how to improve marks in the examination. First thing is that you have to write the answer where you are most confident. After that, attempt all sub parts of the question at one place, which is also mentioned in the screen, and student has asked also that you should answer your questions, all the subparts of the question at one place. It should be 1A, then 1B, and then only move to another question. If you are not able to answer 1B, just leave the space, okay, and then move ahead and come back later on when you feel that now you can answer or you can spare time for that. Your handwriting should be legible. You also need to maintain your speed while writing the answers. For maintaining the speed, for time management, written practice is the best tool. This will help you in maintain for your time management also. This will help you in your hand mind coordination also. This will also help you in your writing practice also, your handwriting practice also. So see, definitely in 3 hours you have to write in everything in speed. Your writing should not be very beautiful. That is not expected, but readability. It should be there. So that legible writing is required, so that whatever you're writing, examiner should understand. Then only you'll be able to give them, he will be able to give the marks. One important point which students need to know is that in case student has some doubt in a question and he is solving or writing the answer on the basis of an assumption. Again, this also we have discussed earlier, assumption, whatever assumptions you are taking, please be careful that your assumption should be given, it should be mentioned in your answer. Because when you are giving an assumption, it means there is scope of assumption. Means what? There is, for one answer there are two directions, so you are going to left or you're going to right, that you have to mention it. This will help examiner in understanding, okay, if he's saying left, it means something, there is a way for right also. So there is scope of assumption, means there are two possible situations. So mentioning your assumption will just remove the confusion in the mind of the examiner also, and they'll be able to just evaluate answer on the basis of your logical assumption, if it is logical. Okay, this again as a answer the question with due emphasis on your NDS. How to manage time in the examination? This we have already discussed, that we have 15 minutes reading time. Just go through the question paper in whatever standard you are confident. Choose that particular answer first for your answering it, and which question to be taken up. Question 1 and 3, 4, 5, 6 is to be taken, or 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 is to be taken. Which is to be left out, that you can understand in that 15 minutes reading time. Okay, first go all through the questions quickly. Okay. After that, you should mark the question which you know the best. As discussed earlier, this is the question that you will be attempting first. Thereafter, allocate an estimated time for each question based on their difficulty level and marks carried, keeping aside 10 to 15 minutes for revision. So, if you are getting 3 hours for writing your answers, always assume that you are getting only 2 hours and 50 minutes for writing an examination. What will happen? I'm taking care. What will happen that 10 minutes the spare time, if in case you get somewhere delay, that will be that 10 minutes spare time will be used for that also. In case you are able to match with whatever time management you have scheduled, if you are able to match with that, then you'll get 10 minutes reading time, revision time, and that revision time will help you in whatever shortcomings or loopholes are there, you are able to fill that. So that's why that 10 minutes revision time should be kept in your mind. Okay, one question was, is it required to write provisions as per India's for every India's question? No, it is not for every India's question. It depends on the requirement part of the question paper. If the question paper say explain, if the question paper says comment, if they says recommend, in that situation, yes, you have to discuss the provisions of India's. If the question paper is simply saying compute or prepare the balance sheet, in that situation, you are not required to explain the provisions of the standard. So depending on the requirement part of the question paper, you have to act. If it is not asking for any presentation, for any comment, see where you are writing the provisions. When you have to substantiate, you have to arrive at a conclusion, you have to substantiate your conclusion, then only you require the discussion of provisions of India's. Where you have to simply compute, you have to simply present in the financial statement. It means application of standard is reflected in the form of your computation. Application of standard is reflected in the form of your presentation. So there you are not supposed to give the provisions of the standard. Is it required? Me, this is okay. Mr. Suraj is asking, I will pursue FR in May 24. Is BOS virtual class available for same? We are going to start virtual class from 25th September. So live learning classes for your May 2024 examination under new scheme will start from 25th September, and you can take the benefit of that from the very first session. Your first session will be for financial reporting only. Means in the first week you'll be having Monday, Wednesday, Friday. In fact, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Friday. From next week onward, it will be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday financial reporting paper. Okay. Next is hello ma'am, I studied FR in May but could not able to attend the exam because of my job. Now I am on leave and have completed only 20% till now. How can I go through further? See, Mr. Kiran Hegde, India is requires time. Now we are in the month of September. Almost half of the September has passed out. So you, if you have completed only 20%, then you have to expedite. You have to devote more hours in a day for this particular paper, because if you are doing this your first round of study, because you can also understand, and since you are doing first round of study, you can understand the difficulty level of India's technical standards, especially your some standards like 115, 116, your financial instruments, your consolidation. They require much devotion, they require, the technicality level is high. So that's why it is very very important that you have to devote good number of hours for in a day for this paper. And now, since to now onwards, you have to devote every day for India's. You cannot do that you do first two papers and then do another two papers. India should be there in your timetable, in your schedule. Every day should be there in your timetable, and that too at least 5 to 6 hours, because you have only completed 20%, na? So you have to do it. Otherwise, go for your May 24 examination. For my paper, I can say the syllabus is same except two chapters, but your scheme is different. And in May 24, one benefit will be that 30% will be MCQs. Right now, for November 23 examination, if you are well prepared, you are in the revision time, then go for November 23 examination for this particular paper, because this is descriptive paper. In your May 24 onwards, under new scheme, you'll be having 30% MCQs also. So that will also help you in scoring. My syllabus is there, but for other papers there are some change in the syllabus, so you have to judicially check your understanding and your preparation level to take the call. Okay, this is not that I am recommending for May 24 and not for November 23. It's not like that. Depending on your understanding and your preparation level, you have to take. Okay, especially, and this suggestion was basically for Suraj only, who has completed only 20% of the study. Okay, next is, no, sorry, for Mr. Kiran, not Suraj, sorry, for Mr. Kiran, who has done his only 20% studies. Okay, now next is, Madam, is explanation of provision required for every India's. This I have already replied, that in case, I have already replied this query. Okay, then, okay, since this is the last attempt under old course, what precaution should be taken to tackle difficult paper? Thank you, ma'am. You explained everything so well. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Vaishnavi. Okay, Miss Vaishnavi. Sorry, thanks, Miss Vaishnavi. See, if you have thorough understanding of India's, na, there is no difficulty level. Difficulty level arises only when you have done your selective study, or when you have done your selective practice, or you have done oral practice. If you do your work 100%, you do everything, written practice, you have completed 100% of your syllabus, then writing, getting 50% won't be difficult at all. So difficulty level will also be not something. See, in financial reporting now, whatever the trend is, that for everything, whatever is coming in the examination is from your study material only, study material or your revision test paper. Every question which is there in your past last two or last three examination, each and every question you can find it in your RTP or study material. So thorough practice of your study material. All questions should be written practice, should be practice by writing. Then only you'll get the confidence, and that confidence is going to repay you a good score. Definitely, I am very confident those who have covered 100% of their syllabus thoroughly with good understanding, they are able to get exemption for this paper for sure. Okay, so don't think that paper is difficult. It is basically our level of preparedness is less. Otherwise, still, what I'll suggest you, that since you are asking this question, section wise weightage we have shared with you all, that is given in the BOS knowledge portal. That section wise weightage will help you in understanding which topic carries more weightage. Give more focus to that particular question, standards first. Like financial statements में से क्वेश्चन आएगा ही आएगा. 115 जो आपका रेवेन्यू फॉर कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स विद कस्टमर्स है, उसमें से क्वेश्चन आना ही है. तो उन स्टैंडर्ड्स को मत छोड़ के जाइए, उसमें से पढ़िए, तो एटलीस्ट आपको उसमें से एक क्वेश्चन आ रहा है, उस वेटेज के अकॉर्डिंग आ रहा है, इसका मतलब है आपको 12 नंबर का क्वेश्चन तो मिनिमम आना ही है. वो आ रहा है तो आपका वो कवर हो जाएगा. तो इस तरह से भी आप डिफिकल्टी लेवल को अपना थोड़ा सा हैंडल कर सकते हैं. सेक्शन वाइज वेटेज को ध्यान दीजिए, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली आप अपनी प्रिपरेशन लेवल करिए. शेड्यूल आप उस हिसाब से बनाइए कि आपको कौन सा स्टैंडर्ड पहले कवर करना है. Okay, when we'll start new batch for May 24 examination? From 25th September, we'll be starting new batch live learning classes for your May 24 examination. You can start this first class will be for financial reporting only. You can start from 25th September morning batch, 7 to 10 a.m. Okay, shall I come back to my PPT? See, I am finding that I have not even started amendments. So let me just go through the amendments. These are the basic tips which we have covered. Do's and don'ts for and after the examination, which we'll discuss later on. Okay, and coming to the amendments part. So, see, amendments are shared with you through RTP. It is given on the BOS knowledge portal separately also, and here also I am discussing the amendments. These amendments are divided into three parts. The first part is the amendment which taken place recently, that is on 31st March 2023 and is applicable from 1st April 2023. And this basically is applicable from the financial year 23-24 onwards. So this is first part of the amendment. Second part of the amendment is the amendment which took place in your company's corporate social responsibility expenditures. That in that particular chapter, those amendments which have been notified by Ministry of Corporate Affairs, that will be covered in the second part. And third part, again the amendment in Ind AS which took place in the previous year, that also has been given in the RTP. The reason for giving it or covering in the study material in the RTP is that because those are not covered in the study material. The study material which is applicable to you for your this November 23 examination is October 2021 edition. So October 2021 edition of the study material does not carry two amendments which have taken place after issue of that edition. One is which was a amendment which took place last year, and amendment which took place this year in India, and one amendment for CSR. So those three amendments we'll be discussing right now. Okay, one student have asked, for present value calculation, can we attend calculation way or we need to provide with the table format? See, it is not necessary. If question asks to prepare amortization table, then go for that amortization table. Otherwise, if possible to give it in a one line statement by annuity method, you can go for that also. That is also acceptable, no issues. Even for amortization part also. What for amortization part? Sorry, I'm not able to connect, Mansa. What exactly you want to know? Acha, you are saying for present value table. For amortization part also, yes, if it is required for, that's what I do. If you are preparing if you are answering a question based on your India's 109 financial instrument, where you have to show amortized cost on your financial instruments are measured on the basis of amortized cost, their amortization table is required. So you have to give that. There you cannot avoid it. At some places like in your leases question where one line statement can be given or present value can be calculated on the basis of annuity figure, there you can do it. Otherwise, yes, amortization table is required. Okay. Okay, let's move on to with the amendments. Now I'll be taking the queries only after covering the first part of amendments so that there's no disturbance and I'm able to cover it in one go. So amendments to the company's Indian Accounting Standard Rules 2015 made by MCA on 31st March 2023. This is the most recent amendment in your India's rules. Okay. So India's rules are 2015 rules. India's was notified in the year of 2015 and was titled as the company's Indian Accounting Standard Rules 2015. Your division 2 to India schedule 3, which carries India's based financial statement formats, they are different from this India's rules. India's rules carries the bare text of Indian accounting standards. Any where there is deviation between division 2 and this Indian accounting standard rules, you have to follow Indian accounting standard rules because this flexibility is given in your division 2, that wherever there is a deviation, follow the Indian accounting standard rules. Now they are part of the Companies Act only. Okay. So these are applicable from 1st April 2023 from financial year 23-24. So these amendments are basically in your India's 1, 8, 12, 101, and there are some annual improvements also. Annual improvements is basically amendment made in one standard but was left out in some other standard, or where you feel that drafting or of the sentence needs to be improvised. Such type of improvements are known as annual improvements. Okay, we are doing amendments applicable for November 23 examination. First amendment is in Ind AS 1, presentation of financial statements. What happened in financial statement earlier, we were using significant accounting policies. The term was significant accounting policy. Now the word significant has been, okay, let me change the pen color. Okay. The word significant has been changed to material accounting policies. Okay. So what we have to do is, sorry, I have to use this pen now. This significant word has changed to material accounting policies. So majorly what we want to focus is that sometimes you may feel that they are significant, but they are of very less, the materiality level is less. So even if it is significant, but it is not that material, so you won't be using, or you won't be discussing that, or you won't be disclosing that. So what the change has been brought in India's one is that instead of significant accounting policy, now the term has been used as material accounting policies to be disclosed in your while presentation of financial statements. Okay. Further, in disclosure part also, they have mentioned something that an entity is required to disclose, along with material accounting policy, information or other notes, the judgments that management has made in the process of applying the entity's accounting policy. So what we have to disclose is the judgment and the information and other notes, but what is the impact because of those material accounting policies, that has to be disclosed by applying the entities accounting policies which have the most significant effect on the amounts recognized in the financial statements. So any material accounting policy which is affecting the amounts presented in the financial statement, that has to be disclosed, and you have to mention the reason why you have adopted that particular accounting policy. So it is not only adopting a material accounting policy, it is also disclosing the adoption of material accounting policy, or the reason or the judgment for adopting that particular material accounting policy in your preparation of financial statement or in your accounting. Okay. Next is Ind AS 8, one amendment which is there in Ind AS 8 is, earlier your Ind AS 8 was discussing the definition of change in accounting estimate. Now they are saying it is not change in accounting estimate, it is accounting estimates. So definition of accounting estimate has been added in your financial state, in your, sorry, Ind AS 8, by removing the definition of change in accounting estimates. So as per the recent amendment, accounting estimates are monetary amounts in the financial statements that are subject to measurement uncertainty, where uncertainty is involved, and uncertainty is involved in the case of measurement, where uncertainty is involved in the case of measurement, and that requires any monetary amount, that a monetary value is added to that particular uncertainty, then accounting estimate definition is involved. It means accounting estimate is involved. So this is the definition which has been added in the recent amendment, that accounting estimates are monetary amounts in financial statements that are subject to measurement uncertainty. As per the amendment, the company develops an accounting estimates to achieve. So why do we do accounting estimates? We do accounting estimates to achieve the objectives of the accounting policies which we have adopted. When we are adopting any particular accounting policy, we are setting any accounting policies, we have particular objective in our mind. To attain that objective, to achieve that objective, accounting estimates are required. So accounting estimates to be followed based on the guidance which is given in your Ind AS 8. Okay. When we have changed the definition of Ind AS 8, certain examples have also been modified. More or less they are in the same manner only, but the language has been improvised, better understanding, better clear wording have been given. For example, loss allowance for expected credit losses, net realizable value of an item of prop inventory, the fair value of an asset or liability applying Ind AS 113. These are the examples of your accounting estimates. Depreciation expense for an item of property, plant and equipment. This change in the depreciation expense means the change in the accounting method for your computation of depreciation expense. This is also an accounting estimate. Provision for warranty obligations. These are basically, earlier also these standards were covered in accounting estimates, but the language has been modified and improvised. Okay, next amendment is in your Ind AS 12. This is a tricky amendment. Let me just explain you. When we are doing recognition of deferred tax liability or deferred tax assets, certain conditions are prescribed in the standard which we have to follow, or certain situations where you have to, it is mentioned that you have to recognize deferred tax asset or deferred tax liability. But one exception has been added through an amendment where it is mentioned even there is a situation where you have to recognize deferred tax liability or deferred tax asset, but as an exception you are not supposed to recognize it. Even though there's a scenario which gives arise to a situation or gives arise to deferred tax liability or deferred tax asset, you are not supposed to recognize. That is the scenario, and scenario is initial recognition. On initial recognition of an asset or liability in a transaction which at the time of transaction does not give rise to equitable, taxable or deductible temporary differences. When we are recognizing initial, when we are doing any initial recognition, for example in the case of leases, when you are doing initial recognition, what you do is right of use asset dr to your lease liability. Okay, so amount will be same, but sometimes in some scenarios amount may not be same, like for decommissioning liability. There are certain situations where your right of use asset and your decommissioning liability or value is your lease liability is different. In such situation, this gives the scenario gives rise to computation of deferred tax. But an exception has been added in this Ind AS 12 where you are not supposed to compute any deferred tax in such situation, even when there is no amount of asset and amount of liability is not same. Okay, this exception has been added. It means exception means that you are not supposed to compute deferred tax asset even in this situation where the equitable, taxable or deductible temporary difference is not there. Still, you are permit to not to compute deferred tax. Then in Ind AS 101, this Ind AS 101 की amendment जो है ना वो Ind AS 12 से related है, but completely contrast में है. आपको Ind AS 101 says that even Ind AS 12 exempt you from recognizing any deferred tax at the initial recognition of recording of any asset or liability in case of decommissioning liability and leases. But when you are doing first time adoption of Ind AS, you are doing for transition is to Ind AS is done for the first time. At that time, you have to recognize it. This is the exception. There is a contrast between Ind AS 12 and 101. For in general cases, any asset is recognized where your liability and in your initial transaction value, your value of asset and your value of liability is different, which is not giving rise to same amount of deductible temporary difference or taxable temporary difference. Still, you are not required to compute any deferred tax as per Ind AS 12. But when you are doing first time adoption of Ind AS, even the exemption is given in Ind AS 12, still you have to compute the deferred tax. In such scenarios, this Ind AS 101 states. So as per the amendment, despite paragraph 15, despite paragraph 15 exempt an entity from recognizing a deferred tax asset or liability in a particular circumstances, at the date of transition to Ind AS, a first-time adopter shall recognize a deferred tax asset to the extent that it is probable that taxable profit will be available against which the deductible temporary difference can be utilized, and a deferred tax liability for all deductible and taxable temporary differences associated with ROU assets and decommissioning, restoration or similar liabilities, and the corresponding amounts recognized as part of the cost of the related asset. So in the situation, if your the situation gives rise to taxable profit, then you have to calculate deferred tax asset. If it is giving rise to deductible temporary differences, then you have to calculate DTL, deferred tax liability, but you have to do it at the case in the scenario when it is a first time adoption of Ind AS. However, you have already adopted Ind AS and you're practicing, you're implementing Ind AS from past few years, you're preparing financial statements based on Ind AS from several years in the past also, then you have to see Ind AS 12. For first time or initial recognition of asset, exemption is provided that as per Ind AS 12, even there is no equitable difference, still you can avoid computing deferred tax on that situation. Okay, hope I am clear. Since this is a technical one, I'm just checking the queries also. Ma'am, can you provide guidance on how many decimals should be rounded off in questions generally? See, if your present value factors or discounting factors are given in the question and that is given in 2 decimals or 3 decimals, then follow that. That is a hint. That is a hint which tells you that you have to also follow in your solution up to 3 decimal or 2 decimal. If nothing is mentioned, no present value, your discounting factors are not given in the question paper, and still your answers are coming in decimal, it is advisable to go for 2 decimal or 3 decimal. Both are acceptable. In general, even if you go for 1 decimal or rounding off to the nearest rupee or for 4 decimals, that is also acceptable. Whatever you're doing, you can mention in one line. Even if you don't mention, still that is rounding off है ना, nearby का आपका वो acceptable होता है. जहाँ पे decimal का involvement है, fractions में answer आ रहे हैं ना, तो वहाँ पे examiners को instructions होती हैं कि जहाँ इस तरह के variations हैं because of decimals, that is to be taken care of. Okay. Okay, ma'am, from where can we get this amendment? This amendment is better given in your RTP also. This amendment is given as a separate tab in your BOS knowledge portal. From there also you can get it. Even we are discussing here also. Okay. Please zoom a bit. Okay. Let me do it. Just a minute. Huh? I don't know how to do it, but still let me try. नहीं. Hope it is more visible now. See. Was this one was better? Students, this was better? Please, ma'am, explain India's 12th amendment with amounts. Okay. Vinay, see, for example, what happens when you are calculating your lease liability or ROU asset, when you are in the case of leases, basically this exemption is related to leases only. If you go through your India's 101, they are saying right of use asset. Despite the paragraph 15 and 24 of India's 12 exemption an entity from recognizing a deferred tax asset or liability in particular circumstances at the date of transition to India's, a first-time adopter shall recognize a deferred tax asset. An example is given with two different situations: ROU assets and lease liability. When there is a difference in your ROU asset and lease liability, and decommissioning, restoration, and similar liabilities, in this scenario only you will be finding that there is a difference. There is not equitable temporary difference. Your temporary difference may result into higher of deductible temporary difference or higher of taxable temporary difference. So in that scenario, exemption is given in India's 12, and but here it is not given. For amounts you can put it here also. Okay, otherwise you just please separately me, I'll give you an example and explain it through my you just mail me separately. Okay, let me just complete it because I'm just running short of time. It's 12:24 and I have to wind up by anyhow by 1:30 because another session is there for intermediate in the same studio. So I have to complete my case. Whatever you have the query, still you are not able to understand. In general, please ask me. You want a true example explanation to build up the scenario. I'll be explaining it to you separately. You just mail me on BOS mobile app or through fr-final@ici.in. Your name, Vinay. I'll just take this. Okay. Okay, next amendment is now we are moving to second part of the amendment. Second part of the amendment is on your corporate social responsibility act. This amendment was applicable for you for May 23 examination also. Why? Because this amendment came into picture or became the law of land in September 2022. From since then, 6 months is the cutoff date for any amendment to be applicable for your examination. So from 20th September, it was a cutoff date of 6 months is reaches to March, April. So for it was applicable for your May 23 examination. In your previous BOS for success also, I have discussed this amendment, but I'll be discussing this again. Earlier, what was happening that in you were supposed to prepare form a CSR committee only in two situations: when your CSR expenditure was more than 50 lakhs, and when as per the amendments, now if you are having any unspent amount, then also you have to form a CSR committee, because for unspent amount on CSR expenditure, CSR committee will be taking care of. So you have to form a CSR committee. So that's why the rule which was earlier that if for any particular three consecutive years required that second omission which is there, this is because of this only. Every company that ceases to fulfill the criteria prescribed under Section 135, subsection 1 of the Companies Act 2013 for 3 consecutive years is not required to constitute a CSR committee. What means? It means that, for example, in year one, you were supposed to form a CSR committee, but after that, in year 2, 3, 4, you are not meeting the criteria of the turnover or the profit, so you are not required to form a CSR committee. For 3 consecutive years, if you are not required to do any CSR expenditure, or then for fourth year, you are not required to form a CSR committee. This was the provision given in the Companies Act. Now this section has been omitted. This section has been removed. The reason is that even if you are not having CSR liability for these consecutive years, but you are having unspent amount in your account for CSR, then you have to form a CSR committee. That is the reason this particular section has been deleted. Okay. Basically, this is important to you when to form a CSR committee or not, because once in your examination, this type of question has been asked. So one should be aware of when to form a CSR committee. And right, it may happen that it is asked in the question that this is the scenario, this is the turnover, this is the amount, this whether a entity is required to form a CSR committee or not. So it may come in the examination. From that perspective, this is important. Okay. Another thing is that earlier, for implementing CSR committees, Schedule 7 of the Companies Act mentions the entities or the trust or the which can be used for doing these charitable or CSR expenditures. Now, for implementation agencies, certain list was there. That list has been enhanced. That list has been enhanced by adding the entities which are falls under Section 10, Clause 23C. And those entities are fund or institutions established for charitable purpose, having record fund. Okay. Second is trust or institution wholly for public religious purpose or wholly for public religious charitable purpose. That also you can do in your CSR expenditure. These are the implementation agencies. These are permissible implementation agencies. Any university or educational institution solely for educational purpose, they can also be considered as, they are also comes under the purview of Section 10, Clause 23C, and they are now permitted as implementation agencies for CSR expenditure. Last is hospital or other institutions for reception and treatment of persons suffering from illness or mental defectiveness. Okay, this is again, this is medical attention, not for purpose of profit. In every, whatever the 4 categories of entities have been added as implementation agency, for with every agency, one specific requirement is that they should not be formed for the purpose of any profit. They are only for charitable purpose, then only they are permissible as implementation agencies for your. This is basically your amendment. The amendment is not very much relatable for your examination perspective, but this is which you should be aware of. Okay, now third part is the amendments with related to this only, CSR only. This mentions that earlier you were supposed to give, as per the Rule 8 of the companies provides that every company having an average CSR obligation of 10 crore or more in pursuance of section this, in the 3 immediately preceding years should undertake an impact assessment. Impact assessment is basically whatever CSR expenditure you are doing it is basically for basically discharging your social responsibility or not. That impact assessment is to be assessed. That impact assessment is to be conducted, and this impact assessment was mandatory for those entities whose CSR expenditure was exceeding 10 crores or more. It was 10 crores or more in 3 consecutive years. So, an amount which was parked for this impact assessment was 5% earlier. Now this amount has been reduced to 2%. Okay, so earlier, as per the amendment, the limit to book expenditure towards impact assessment has now been reduced to 2%, earlier 5% of total CSR expenditure. Okay, of rupees 50 lakh, and that 10 crore wala limit has now shifted to rupees 50 lakhs. Okay, such a company may book an expenditure towards CSR of that financial year which should not exceed 5% of total. This was the earlier provision. 5% of 50 lakhs, whichever is less. Now it is 2% of 50 lakhs, whichever is less. That much amount you can spend on impact assessment. Okay. Okay, now amendments which took place in your, this is basically in the format, so I'm skipping that. Next amendment was which was taken place earlier in the last year. This was also discussed in the previous one, but still I would like to just have a quick glance on this. Last time in India 16, an amendment was taken place which mentioned that any goods were produced or sold, any goods which were produced during testing time, whenever we are putting assets for the use for the first time, we are assessing that it is ready for use or not. During that testing time, if any goods were produced and that good is sold, so the gain on that is not to be charged to profit and loss, that is to be deducted to your cost of the asset. That will reduce the cost of the asset. This was the amendment which took place in India 16 last year. However, this gave rise to carve out. How it gave rise to carve out? Because in IAS 16 they don't say that reduce the cost of the asset. They say any proceeds from the sale of such goods which was produced during testing time, that net proceed to be or gain or loss to be charged to your or recognized in your profit and loss. But our India says you have to reduce the cost of the asset. Because of this, there is a differential treatment between in IAS 16 and India 16. This differential treatment has led to carve out. Okay. India's 37. In India's 37, what happens? We have to recognize one onerous contracts. For onerous contract, we have, it was mentioned in the standard that there are certain unavoidable cost which is to be considered for measuring the onerous contracts. Now, what constitutes unavoidable cost, that was not mentioned. So there were differential treatments by different entities as per their understanding. Now that clarification has been brought by inserting para 68A, and that mentions that for it should not only be the direct attributable cost, it should be also incremental cost for that particular contract, which is to be taken, which should be considered for computing the cost for that onerous contract. Okay, so what exactly this means? Any asset which was not directly used but indirectly used or allocated for that particular contract, for construction of that contract, and on that particular asset, besides depreciation, if you have any impairment loss, that is incremental expenditure, that will also forming part of your onerous cost. Okay. And because of that, we are saying it is not only directly attributable asset, we are also talking about any assets which are allocated for that particular contract for a timing. It means assets used in fulfilling the contract rather than assets dedicated to the contract. So this dedicated word has been removed by and replaced by assets used in fulfilling the contract. This by this change or this replacement, the scope of incremental cost was brought into the picture, and for computation of cost for onerous contracts, we can now use that attributable cost as well as incremental cost. Okay. For India's 103 business combinations, what happens in conceptual framework? Recently conceptual framework was revised. Recently means in 2021 conceptual framework was revised. Conceptual framework for reporting, for financial reporting as per India's, under India's. So as per conceptual framework, definition was given for recognition of any asset or any liability. Now that definition may not match with the recognition of liability under your India's 37, where levies, there's a particular appendix in India's 37 which talks about levies. Sorry, there's particular standard on appendix C, that is appendix C in India's 37, which talks about levies. For recognition of levies as liability or contingent liability, it is a contingent liability, and for recognition of that as a liability, certain criteria have been mentioned. those criteria may not may take recognition of liability at some later point of time. However, as per conceptual framework, that liability has to be recognized immediately in the case of business acquisition. So what entities were doing was that they used to recognize that liability at the time of acquisition, and again second day they used to de-recognize it, and because of that de-recognizing, in case there is a change in the value, that was booked to your P&L. So to avoid that treatment, this amendment has brought, and as per the amendment, to resolve this implication, Ind AS 103 has been amended with regards to recognition exception for contingent liabilities and levies by inserting para 21A to 21C. An exception has been added to the requirements, and that should be within the scope of Ind AS. It incurred separately rather than assumed in a business combination. It means if at the time of acquisition you have such types of levies, then they have to be accounted separately, not through business, it should not fall under a purview of 103. They should have to be accounted separately. 101 also gave certain, basically what was happening in case of foreign exchange translation, foreign translation difference. Parent company, when they were adopting first time, when they were doing first time adoption of Ind AS, they were allowed to any translation, any balance in the translation, cumulative translation reserve, they were allowed to deem it as zero. And later on, they were building it up again. First time adoption was done, suppose in the year 1-2. So there they have assumed it as zero, and later on they build it as build up 10 lakh, or then next year 20 lakh. Year 1, year 2, it was building up. Huh? Now your subsidiary company adopted Ind AS in year 3, or was a new company was formed, and it was adopting Ind AS for the first time in year 3. So what will be the balance? Or cannot say that new company, because subsidy should already be there, but they are in their separate financial statement, they are adopting Ind AS for the first time. In such a situation, what has to be done is that it is not that they have to assume this difference, translation difference, to be zero. They can take the balance which is showing in the consolidated balance sheet by the parent company. That balance can be taken directly in their separate financial statement rather than they assume it as zero. So this exception has been added in your Ind AS 101. In days 109, one term was used when we are determining that is the modification of contract or this instrument. At that time, the term was there, fees paid or fees received should be taken into account. But what forms fees paid or what forms fee received, that was not explained. So this clarification has been added in the amendment. Through the amendment, this clarification has been added, and that amendment says that fees includes, let me mention it. Earlier, which is to be included fees, was not mentioned. Earlier, it was not mentioned, and now they are saying that as per the amendment, by inserting this particular paragraph, we have added that which clarifies that fees paid for the above purpose includes amount paid by the borrower to or on behalf of the lender, and fees received includes fees amount paid by the lender to or on behalf of the borrower. So for determining the modification, there's a modification in the instrument or something, we have to, it is an extinguishment or modification of the terms of the contract, we have to take into account fees paid or fees received. But what constitutes fees paid or fees received, that was not mentioned. So for that, the clarification has been added by inserting certain paragraphs in Ind AS 109. Okay. One amendment was in Ind AS 41. For Ind AS 41, for fair value assessment. For fair value assessment, certain cash flows were mentioned. As earlier, as per para 22 of Ind AS 41, prescribes certain cash flows that would not be considered for the purpose of assessing the fair value. Now, दैट लिस्ट में एक आपका एक अमाउंट होता था ना, कैश फ्लो, टैक्स कैश फ्लोज जो होते थे, डिलीटेड द कैश फ्लोज फॉर टैक्सेशन. फेयर वैल्यू असेसमेंट की एक एक्सक्लूजन लिस्ट थी. उस एक्सक्लूजन लिस्ट में आपका एक कैश फ्लो फॉर टैक्सेशन दिया हुआ था. अब उस एक्सक्लूजन लिस्ट से कैश फ्लो फॉर टैक्सेशन रिमूव कर दिया गया. इसका मतलब है कि अब आप फेयर वैल्यू असेसमेंट जब आप करेंगे बायोलॉजिकल आपके एग्रीकल्चर एसेस के लिए, तो आपको कैश फ्लो फॉर टैक्सेशन को भी कंसिडर करना है. पहले वो एक्सक्लूजन लिस्ट में था, अब एक्सक्लूजन लिस्ट से हट गया, इसका मतलब है कि वो कंसिडर किया जाएगा फॉर फेयर वैल्यू असेसमेंट. ओके, सो दिस इज द अमेंडमेंट which has taken place in Ind AS 41. Okay, these were the amendments which have taken place. Now since we have still 20 minutes, I would just like want to know few things, students. uh, in case you have any query, please let me know, because now what we are looking for is that whether I should go for tips, do's and don'ts during the examination, before the examination, or after the examination, or should I cover any particular question, because we are having only 20 minutes to left and we can cover one particular question in RTP. So students, whatever you want, you just let me know. Okay, let's move to then RTP question. I would prefer taking question. I have chosen question 6 of your this RTP for November 2023. This question 6 is on Ind AS 8. The reason behind choosing this particular question is that I found that this type of question was not there in the study material. This is for the first time I'm giving you such type of question where you have to, where earlier what we were doing is that we were mentioning in the question, whatever the questions which were given in the study material, there you was simply asked to mention whether you have to restate it, the comparative financial statements only, or the third balance sheet also you have to prepare, that you have to mention. But what should be the amount in that balance sheet or in the profit and loss, that was not tested in your any of the questions. It was not tested. So this question we have brought in the study in your RTP, and that is the reason why I have chosen this particular question to be covered for this session. Okay, I received certain answers. Let me check. Acha, some are asking for tips. One question is by Vinay Kumar, ma'am, if dividend is declared at a rate of 10% in case of business combination, what treatment to be done? See, students, if dividend of 10% is declared, you have to see when the dividend has been declared. If dividend has been declared before the acquisition of that particular asset, then that dividend will reduce the cost of your investment. If your dividend is declared after your acquisition, then the treatment will be simply that is a gain or other income, and it is to be charged to your P&L. It will recognize in your P&L, will not be reducing the cost of investment. Okay. Okay. Sumit Jain was asking for tips. Okay, let me do one thing. I'll just try to complete the tips fast. And in case we still have left with some time, we'll cover this particular question. Otherwise, what I'll request you that in case we don't get time, then this particular question of your RTP, that is question number 6, just go through that. This is really good question. This type of question was not there in the study material, where we have asked you to compute the amount. You have to make the changes in the amount in your comparative statements and in your earlier statements also, and to the recent statement also, financial statements. That is the different, this is a different question, and this is a good question. Okay, we have to go with the tips. Okay, these are the do's and don'ts before and after appearing for the exam. So students, one thing like what right now we have discussed is what are the preparation level, what to prepare, how to appear in your examination. These are basically your technical study tips. These do's and don'ts are basically your mental, how psychologically you should be holding yourself controlled, confident. These are that kind of tips. Okay. Okay. First is be positive and confident. Everybody will say that when you are giving the paper, be positive and confident. But saying won't work. It will work only when you are surrounded with the positive environment, positive people, positive those who are talking positively. You are surrounded with that. And also for being positive is that, and confident is that you have done your study preparations thoroughly. So these in two ways you can keep yourself positive and confident. For confident, you have to be thorough with your studies, go for full study, don't go for any elective study, go for good number of revisions also, spend proper time, increase your hours in a day when you are approaching to your exam. And for being positive, it's not that only you have to you instill yourself with positive thoughts, you have to be surrounded with the positive people also. So that is also important for being positive. Remain focused and vigilant in your approach, believe in yourself and your preparation. This is also, see, when you are doing something, be focused with that, this is your target and you have to meet it, you have to achieve it. So be focused with it. Don't get deviated, don't get disturbed or perturbed with other thoughts, any social media or something. Again, that negative thought also, don't get disturbed with that, and be very focused with your thought approach. Then only you'll be able to concentrate and you'll be able to give your 100%. Plan your studies and revision a day before the examination. See, since financial reporting is your first paper, and if your first paper goes well, this boosts your confidence, and this confidence, if boosted, it will reflect in other upcoming papers also. So very important is that this first paper should go very good. So for this first paper, you should start your revision at least 4 5 days prior to the day of examination. If your examination falls on 1st November, then start at least from 25th October, you should devote completely for financial reporting, so that your financial reporting का पेपर अगर अच्छा जाएगा ना, तो आपको लगेगा हाँ ये ग्रुप दे देंगे, ये पेपर निकलेगा, तो एक ना मोटिवेशन रहता है आपको। अगर पहला पेपर ही आपका अच्छा नहीं जाता ना, तो आपको लगता है जब ग्रुप तो निकलना ही नहीं है, अच्छा पेपर तो गया नहीं है, तो दूसरा भी ना दिया जाए, नेक्स्ट के लिए ट्राई किया जाए। बहुत सारे नेगेटिव थॉट्स आते हैं, वो नेगेटिव थॉट्स ना आपके आपके बाकी पेपर्स के पॉजिटिव थॉट्स को भी कहीं ना कहीं वो कैंसिल आउट करते चले जाते हैं। इसलिए बहुत जरूरी है कि आपका पहला पेपर अच्छा जाए, वो आपको मोटिवेट करेगा, कॉन्फिडेंट फील कराएगा, और आपको एक एंथू बना रहेगा बाकी पेपर्स के लिए भी अच्छा करने के लिए, और अच्छा पेपर अच्छा देने के लिए भी ना। सो डिवोट मच रिविजन टाइम फॉर दिस पेपर, एटलीस्ट इससे 25 अक्टूबर से तो शुरू कर दीजिए आप इस पे पेपर पे देने के लिए। हाँ, अगर आपको लगता है कि नहीं आपकी इतनी अच्छी थरो स्टडी है कि आप एक और सब्जेक्ट को भी इनकॉर्पोरेट कर सकते हैं, तो वो अलग बात है। अदरवाइज इस पेपर को पूरा डिवोशन आप उस समय से देना शुरू कर सकते हैं। Take proper sleep a day before the exam. This will keep you fresh while writing your exam paper. Okay, this is very important. Generally, what we tend to do is that हम लास्ट 25 अक्टूबर के लिए, आपने सपोज करिए फर्स्ट को एग्जाम है, आपने 30 31 अक्टूबर से पढ़ना शुरू किया, तो ऑब्वियसली एफआर इतना बड़ा है, वास्ट सिलेबस है आपका, आप 1 या 2 दिन में तो कवर कंप्लीट कर नहीं पाएंगे। तो आप क्या करेंगे, यू टेन टू आप रात देर तक जगेंगे, सुबह जल्दी जग रहे होंगे। तो व्हाट विल हैपन इज दैट यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू गेट प्रॉपर स्लीप। अगर प्रॉपर स्लीप नहीं होगी तो आपका कॉन्फिडेंस लेवल रिड्यूस होने लगता है, आपको लगेगा यार मुझे जो पढ़ा है वो याद नहीं आ रहा, मैं भूल रही हूँ, कुछ भूलने लग रहे हैं हम ना। तो ये इस तरह के सिचुएशंस को अवॉइड करने के लिए, और आपकी जो एक जिटरीनेस होती है, जो घबराहट है, नर्वसनेस आती है एग्जाम टाइम पे, उसको कंट्रोल करने के लिए बहुत जरूरी है कि आपकी नींद प्रॉपर हो, और आप बहुत वेल इन टाइम आप इसका रिवीजन शुरू कर दें इस पेपर के लिए। ज्यादा हैवी फूड खाएंगे तो भी नींद आएगी, हल्का खाएंगे तो आपका दिमाग खाने खाने पे ही जाएगा, है ना। तो यू हैव टू ईट अ बैलेंस डिसेंट डाइट, कि आपको ना फोकस आपका खाने पे ना रहे, आपका पढ़ाई पे रहे, और आप बहुत भी ना खा लें कि आपको नींद आने लग जाए। तो दैट इज ऑल्सो इम्पोर्टेंट। मतलब प्रॉपर स्लीप डज नॉट मीन्स ओवर स्लीप, इट शुड बी अ बैलेंस स्लीप ना। डू नॉट यूज एनी काइंड ऑफ सोशल मीडिया ड्यूरिंग द एग्जामिनेशन। देखिए, सोशल मीडिया में आपको जितना पॉजिटिव मिलेगा उससे कहीं ज़्यादा आपको नेगेटिव मिलेगा। तो नेगेटिविटी बढ़ाने का अगर है तो फिर तो सोशल मीडिया इज़ द बेस्ट वे, और अगर पॉजिटिविटी बढ़ानी है ना, तो इससे दूर रहना सबसे बड़ी एक अच्छा एक वे है कि इससे दूर रहिए। कई बार इग्नोरेंस ब्लेसिंग है, आप ये मान के चलिए कि इस तरह के थॉट्स आपके मन में ना आए, इसके लिए आपको इनसे दूर ही रहें तो ठीक है। अपने पे अब लास्ट के 5 दिन में कुछ आपको नया नहीं मिलने वाला है, कुछ अनोखा नहीं हो जाएगा जो कि आपको जानना जरूरी है। तो इसीलिए अपने एग्जाम पे फोकस करिए, कुछ टारगेट्स अपने फोकस रखिए, विजिलेंट रहिए अपने अप्रोच के लिए, और इनसे दूर रहिए, तो ये ज़्यादा आपका अच्छा रहेगा। इवन आपको कोई कह रहे ना ये इंपॉर्टेंट है यार, ये तुमने पढ़ा नहीं था, ये क्या, इस तरह से भी आप डिस्टर्ब मत होइए। जो अब तक पढ़ा है उसी को बेसिस पे ही जाके आप अपनी एग्जाम दीजिए, आप उसी के बेसिस पे ही आप आराम से अच्छा स्कोर करेंगे। कोई एक बीच में आपको कोई क्वेश्चन लेकर आ जाए और आपको लगा अरे ये तो किया नहीं है, अगर आपने कंसेप्चुअली भी पढ़ा हुआ है, अच्छे से स्ट्रांगली पढ़ा है, तो कोई नया क्वेश्चन भी आएगा तो आप आराम से कर सकेंगे। ठीक है। Enjoy the jitteriness which arises from the exam. Don't be panic. ये तो मैं आपको बता ही रही हूँ। इनफैक्ट जब आपको घबराहट होती है ना, तो उस घबराहट के लिए भी बोली मुझे अच्छी लगती है, वो घबराहट, वो अच्छा लग रहा है, वो जो थॉट आती है, जिस तरह की फीलिंग्स आती है ना, आई एंजॉय दैट, तो वो भी आपको ना अपने आप ही वो इंजॉयमेंट ही फील होने लग जाएगा, जो आप बोल रहे हैं ना वो आपको लगने लगेगा। तो घबराहट में क्या होता है, जनरली हम ये सोचते हैं कि अब हमको कुछ याद नहीं है, हम भूल रहे हैं, कुछ पढ़ा सा नहीं लग रहा है, नहीं दे पाएंगे, तो वो आपको डिप्रेशन की तरफ लेके जा रहा है। तो वो मत, आप उसको उल्टा, आप उसी को बोलिए मैं तो इंजॉय कर रहा हूँ उस फीलिंग को, आपको अच्छा ही लगेगा, आप उस रियली आपको इंजॉय करने लगेंगे आप उस फीलिंग को, और आप उससे ओवरकम कर जाएंगे। Even if your performance in the exam was not as per your expectations, forget about it, and so that it does not affect performance in other papers. अब आप पेपर करके आए, आपने बहुत सारी कोचिंग फैकल्टीज के वीडियोस आ जाते हैं जो कि वो पेपर को एनालिसिस करने लगते हैं, इसका ये होना चाहिए था, इसमें ये एडजस्टमेंट होना चाहिए, इसमें ये अकाउंटिंग होना चाहिए। आई स्ट्रांगली रिकमेंड डोंट गो थ्रू दोज वीडियोस, डोंट गो थ्रू दोज वीडियोस, इवन आप ये एजम्पशन के साथ है कि आपका पेपर बहुत अच्छा गया है, तो जो वीडियो में वो बताएंगे वो कहीं ना कहीं स्टैंपिंग हो रही होगी कि आपने अच्छा ही किया है, फिर भी आप मत देखिए, क्योंकि आप जितना, आप कोई भी वीडियोस आपके इस तरह के आते हैं ना, वो वीडियोस भी आधी घंटे से 1 घंटा आपका ले लेते हैं, वो 1 घंटे भी आपके क्रूशियल है इस टाइम पे जब आपको दूसरे पेपर के लिए प्रिपेयर करना है। ये प्रोफेशनल लेवल का एग्जामिनेशन है, उसमें 1 1 घंटा क्रूशियल है। अगर आप नहीं भी प्रिपेयर कर रहे हैं, उस पेपर को डिवोट कर रहे हैं, तो आप रेस्ट करिए उस टाइम पे, अपने को एक थॉट प्रोसेस के साथ और मत भर लीजिए, क्योंकि आपको लग रहा है कि हमने सिर्फ देखा और बंद कर दिया, पर वो देखा और बंद नहीं होता, उसके बाद भी आपके माइंड में वो चीजें चलती रहती हैं, तो वो आपका 1 घंटा इनफैक्ट में 1 घंटा नहीं रहता, वो आपका बढ़ जाता है। तो प्लीज उससे मत जाइए, आपने पेपर दे दिया, जो दे दिया सब कर लिया, अब आप उसको वापस नहीं रिवर्ट कर सकते हैं सिचुएशन को। सो प्लीज डोंट ट्राई टू जस्ट थिंक ओवर ऑन इट, थिंक एंड फोकस ऑन योर अपकमिंग पेपर्स, दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट। डू नॉट डिस्कस द एग्जाम पेपर आफ्टर कमिंग आउट ऑफ द एग्जामिनेशन, सेम थिंग है, आप एग्जाम के बाहर भी आके तुम्हारा इसका क्या आंसर था, मेरा तो ये आया है, डोंट डू दैट। आप, आपका सही होगा, दूसरे का गलत होगा, आप दूसरे के लिए भी सोचिए कि जो हम अपने लिए नहीं चाहते, हम दूसरे के लिए भी नहीं चाहते हैं ना, तो हम, आपने अपने लिए भी कोई डिस्टर्बेंस नहीं चाहते, कोई डीमोटिवेशन नहीं चाहते, तो आप वो दूसरों को भी पास मत करिए, जो आप दूसरों को नहीं देंगे तो वो आपको भी रिवर्ट होके नहीं आएगी। सो इट्स ऑलवेज बेटर टू not to discuss on these. Do not compare your performance with your peers. ऑब्वियस उसका अच्छा गया, उसको तो 80 मार्क्स का गया, मेरा तो सिर्फ 75 का गया है, तो मैं मेरे से अच्छा कैसे कर लिया, अननेसेसरी थॉट्स को मत दीजिए। 75 80 आपके प्रोफेशनल एग्जाम में एक ही बात है, एक ही बात है, आपको मेन आपको पास होना है, पास होके आपको ये क्वालिफिकेशन अचीव करनी है, दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट, ग्रुप क्लियर करना है, क्वालिफिकेशन अचीव करना है। उसने क्या किया, उसको इतना मिलेगा, मुझे तो इतना नहीं मिल रहा है, अब मैं और एक्स्ट्रा करने के चक्कर में आप कुछ जो कर रहे हैं वो भी गड़बड़ करते हैं, वो मत करिए, इसलिए डोंट डिस्कस विथ योर peers. Okay, these were do's and don'ts. Now still it is 12:53, 5 minutes में तो मैं क्वेश्चन नहीं करूंगी, क्वेरीज ले लेती हूँ मैं। Yes, Taruna, all these BOS sessions not only for financial reporting, आगे भी जो आएंगे फाइनल में, इंटर में, दूसरे सब्जेक्ट्स में, ये सब आपको यूट्यूब में अवेलेबल होते हैं, आप यूट्यूब से देख सकती हैं। यूट्यूब का ICAI का CA ट्यूब चैनल है आपका, ICICA ट्यूब चैनल है, आई जो है ये चैनल, इस पे आपके सारे वो मिल जाएंगे, आपको रिकॉर्डेड वर्जन सारे अवेलेबल हैं BOS के। BOS की जो भी लाइव लर्निंग क्लासेस होती हैं, BOS के जो ये BOS पर सेक्शन सक्सेस के जो सेशंस हैं, काउंसलिंग सेशंस, मेंटरिंग सेशंस, जो वेबिनार्स हैं, सेमिनार्स हैं, जो भी हम स्टूडेंट्स के लिए करते हैं, वो सब चीजें आपकी वहाँ यूट्यूब में अवेलेबल होती हैं फॉर एवर। आप जब चाहे देख सकते हैं, इस बार का भी, पिछले बार का भी, जब का भी आपको देखना है देख सकते हैं, एवरीथिंग इज अवेलेबल। ओके, next question is, okay, there is one question in India is 37, also in RTP November 23, question 19. V point which says unexpired term of 5 years of operating lease, but India's 37 scope out the lease except if some becomes onerous before the commencement of date of the lease. ओके विनय, आपको ये प्लीज आप मुझे उसमें भी डाल दीजिए, मैं आपको वहां पे देके करूंगी, क्योंकि राइट नाउ आई एम नॉट कैरिंग द होल आरटीपी विथ मी, आई ओनली सिलेक्टेड फॉर दैट इन क्वेश्चन नंबर 6, so this particular question I have to go through that, then only I'll be able to guide you properly. So just put me over the mail, I'll try to just keep this with me, take this query, आप मुझे मेल पे डालिए या BOS मोबाइल ऐप पे डालिए, I'll try to respond it today only. Okay, So students, hope you have been benefited with the session. Any other queries regarding the session which you have, you please ask. Otherwise, we'll end up the session. And my mail ID is fr-final. It is dash, not underscore. I just write it. This is fr-final at icai.in. Okay, this is the my mail ID, or you can do it through BOS mobile app also. Ask your query session is tab is there. Ask your query. You can ask on that. I'll prefer using this because you'll get more frequent reply from this through this platform. Otherwise, within 48 to 48 hours, you'll get 2 to 3 days. You'll get answer over that also. It may be early also. It is not that you'll get it in 2 3 days only. You may get early also, but this is more frequent platform, so you can use that. Okay. Okay, so again, I got one more query. Does revision lecture of private facility helps? What is revision lecture of private facility? Sorry, Sumit, I'm not very clear about what exactly you want to know. But since everything is uploaded on the YouTube also, that is available. So right now we are not planning for any revision sessions. But I can put forth. I can just note this down, and I'll bring that to the notice of our Director Board of Studies. And if she plans, we can come out with the announcement. Right now, we are not planning like anything like that. For revision, any guidance which you want, person one to one, you can come to our office. Just call us and just take the appointment so that we know that you are coming. We may be also busy with some meeting and all. So if you want personal guidance, you can come to us also here. But better way is that if you are staying outside Delhi or somewhere, and this is crucial time also, September half has already passed. So it's better you can ask it through your mail. Any queries, even any guidance also over the phone also you can ask. Then my number is 0304591 6 extension. STD code is 0120 916. This is the extension, and this is my direct number also, 3045916. You can ask me over the phone also. Okay. Any other query if you have, otherwise we'll wind up the session. Okay. Okay, students, then all the best. Hope you find this session to be useful. And any query, please ask me. Don't hesitate. Okay. Bye. Thank you.